Hello, Indiana HOSA. My name is Diola Lalia, and I am your 2020-2021 Indiana HOSA State Treasurer. I am so excited to have you guys here for our 2021 Winter Rally. In this workshop, I will be talking to you about Model the Way, which is a part of a 5 series of topics that will be covered in other workshops by the other officers of the state team. So in this workshop, we'll be talking about perception, values, and how to inspire, and how that plays into modeling the way. So perception, a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something or somebody. It's essentially a mental impression. So there are 3 parts of perceptions that we'll be talking about today. First, how you perceive yourself. Second, how others perceive you. And third, how you want to be perceived. So first we'll be talking about self-image, or how you perceive yourself. It's the idea one has on one's abilities, appearance, and personality. Self-image can be understood in these 2 simple questions. When you think about yourself, what do you think? And when you look at yourself, what do you see? I'll give you guys a moment to answer these questions. You don't have to answer it verbally, just think about it. So when you think about yourself, do you see yourself as a confident leader, or maybe not so confident? Or when you look at yourself, do you like what you see? As a leader, it is very important for us to have a positive self-image. In fact, the Cleveland Clinic says that self-image is important because how we think about ourselves affects how we feel about ourselves and how we interact with others in the world around us. And as leaders, we are interacting with so many people, different leaders, parts of our teams, that we have to know how to interact with them in the right ways so you are giving the best impression possible. So what does a positive self-image look like versus a negative self-image? A positive self-image is being comfortable in your own skin, appreciating your assets. It can be physical or your skill set, or just a fun hobby that you do. And then recognizing your flaws and working on them, having high self-esteem, and being confident. A negative self-image can lead to feelings of inadequacy, dwelling on negatives, being very self-critical, having low self-esteem, and a lack of confidence. It's actually shown that people with a less positive self-image find it harder to take criticism, which is very important for leaders to take, because we have to take criticism and work towards making the best possible outcome. So improving self-image. This is actually something I do personally. I made a list of everything that I liked about myself, and every day I would add at least one thing that to the list every single day. It might be something small like you like your eyes, or something big like you like the way you interact with people. And then every day you are forced to focus on the positive aspects of yourself, and you spend less time dwelling on the negatives, improving your self-image. Another thing is positive affirmations. Say positive affirmations to yourself, because repeating something to yourself over and over again will actually trick the brain into believing it. So if you continually say, I am confident, I am confident, I am confident, you will eventually start acting and speaking as if you were confident. Next, you have to stop comparing yourself to others. Not everybody has the same experiences and same talks with people the same way. So it's important for you to understand that there are differences between yourself, but you guys are both equally amazing, and you need to realize that about yourself. And then having a support system, surrounding yourself with positive energies that boost your self-image, and then work towards becoming your ideal self. You don't want to stay stuck in this place where you don't feel like you're reaching your full potential. So what is your ideal self? Again, your ideal self is the idealized version of yourself. Who do you want to be? So this has to do with, how do you want others to see you? How do you want to see yourself? And then how you want to be perceived can greatly affect how you interact with people. So if you want to be perceived as confident, you probably interact with people in a very confident way. You're outspoken. And if you want to be if you don't want to be interacted with people, you're probably more guarded and you don't spend much time talking to others. As leaders, how do you want to be seen? And I'll give you a moment to actually answer that question. How do you want to be seen as a leader? Do you want to be seen as approachable, confident, someone that's easy to talk to? Okay, so how do others perceive you? What face do you show the world? Do you show the world an angry face, or are you more lighthearted and open to new ideas? If you have a negative self-image, others will be able to tell. And then what people think of you directly relates to how they treat you. This might not be intentional, but it is a true fact. If people see you as more timid, you might get overlooked a lot more than if you're a confident presence. As a leader, you are constantly being watched, even when you think you aren't. So it's important that you're always putting your best face forward towards the world. The things you do and say alter the way people perceive you. So if you talk negative about a person, you will be perceived as a negative person. So it's always important to model the way, and with your actions, the way you speak, the way you present yourself into the world, even your mannerisms have to do with how you're perceived by others. So setting an example. As leaders, we are constantly being watched. So it's important to have a good perception of you, everybody to have a good perception of you. So you must set a good example. So what does setting a good example look like? Being a doer and not a preacher. So this technically means that don't just say you shouldn't do this, also follow what you're saying. So don't tell someone not to cuss and then be swearing on the internet. And then spending your time and attention wisely. So spending your time doing things that are benefiting you as a person and growing you as a leader. Again, watching your language, asking meaningful questions, whether it's in a group or in class or in a HOSA meeting. And then seek feedback, and then teaching key values. Teach the key values that your organization represents. So what does being a doer and not a preacher mean exactly? It basically, again, like I said before, it means do not be hypocritical. This is important because it makes you more trustworthy and others are more inclined to listen to you because you also do the things that you're asking others to do. Spending your time wisely. How you spend your time is the single clearest indicator of what's important to you, which is actually a quote from this book. And the way you spend your time is actually a direct reflection of what you value. If you spend your time cooking, it shows that you value cooking and learning about cooking. If you spend your time studying, it shows that you value education. It is important to use your time for the betterment of yourself, your team, or organization. This way, your group members will also follow in your example and work towards bettering themselves, their team, and their organization. So a bad example of this is saying that you care about your group's success, but not making any efforts to grow the team. And a good example would be saying that you care about philanthropy and organizing various volunteer projects and fundraising. So watch your language. Watching your language does not only mean no cussing. I mean, obviously, don't cuss, especially if you're around. Actually, just don't cuss. But it also means being careful with your word choice. The way you say things may not come across how you think it does. Words can be extremely powerful, and if you're not careful with them, you might leave the wrong impression on someone. So it's very important that you think twice before posting a tweet on social media or saying something rude that could come across rude. Next, asking meaningful questions. When you ask questions, you send people on a mental journey. So basically asking questions allows people to think about the topics being presented to them. The questions you have reflect what your team should be paying attention to. Questions that can help your team think of different perspectives. Oh my God. And with By asking meaningful questions, you have the ability to foster more creativity and critical thinking. Then seek feedback. You will never know how you are doing unless you ask for feedback. So create a line of communication between you and your group, making sure that you guys are in constant communication and you're finding out what you can do better as a leader. Again, take feedback as points of improvement and make your team feel heard and valued. This also helps you grow as a leader and as a person. Next, teaching key values. First, before you teach key values, you have to identify themselves. What do you value as an individual and as a person? Once you've identified these values, you let these values guide you as a leader. Work on improving yourself to fit these values as well. So teaching key values. Leading is not solely about your values. So it's important to create a line of communication where you are also incorporating your group members' values into it. Shared values are the foundation of building a productive and genuine relationship and will increase the rapport between your team members and the leader. Shared values also allow you to stay accountable and allows your group members to keep you accountable and vice versa. After identifying your shared value, you can create activities to help you and your team members grow in these values. Keeping your values in mind will allow you to stay on track and help you grow as a team, bringing you closer and closer to your goals. Time for the activity. So we will be working on identifying those values. So you will need a piece of paper and something to write with. And on this piece of paper, I want you to create a T-chart. On one side, I want you to make a list of all of your values, everything that you think is important. And I'll give you guys a moment. You can pause the video here. After this, I want you to share with the person next to you or as a group, if possible, all of your values and find a commonality between your values. Next, on the other side of the T chart, I want you to make a list of what you think a leader's values should be. While you're doing this, circle the values that you think you share with the leaders. It is important to identify similarities and differences and work on growing in these values. Now debrief. So why do you think it is important to have values? Next, why do you think you have the values that you do? How do you think your values affect how others perceive you? And how do you think your self-image affects your values? I'll give you guys a moment to think about that. Values are typically created by our experiences in life, so our values come from our upbringing, whether it's a cultural value or a value that you learned in school. Another important value to have, another reason that values can occur is just understanding the difference between right and wrong and understanding what is important to you. How do you think about your values? How do you think your values affect how others perceive you? Typically, we often display traits of our value. So if we value communication, we're more inclined to talk through our problems. So others will think of you as someone to talk to if they want to come to about their problems or someone that will help them through difficult times. And then how does our self-image affect your values? This actually differs from person to person. Sometimes your self-image doesn't have much of an effect on your values. But for me, I know that my self-image and how I want to be seen as others affect my value. I want to be seen as someone that is trustworthy. So I try not to lie. I try not to lie often. And this can range from different people, but It all depends. Anyway, thank you so much for coming to my workshop. I hope you enjoy the rest of Winter Rally and have a fantastic year. See you guys at State Leadership Conference. Have a fantastic rest of the